Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's webinar on Unlocking AI. See what's possible, then do it yourself. A demo-rich presentation. I'm Bud Freund, the webinar coordinator and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County. I'll be your host today, and our presenter is Matt Krieger. More on Matt in a moment. But first, just some information on SCORE. We are a nonprofit national partner of the SBA. We have over 100 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. We offer three primary value-added services to small business owners: free one-on-one counseling, educational workshops and webinars, and we do over 150 a year, and extensive resources on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org, including a network of subject experts at your disposal. Also, if you go to our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org, you'll find a link to contact Congress to continue funding SCORE so we can continue programs like these. Here's some information about today's event. We're going to set aside time for Q&A, and this is a 90-minute prezo, but we will be ending sharply to respect your time. And for further information, I'm going to hand this over to Matt Krieger. Matt?
Thanks, Budley. So today's presentation, which is full of demos, is an improved version of a webinar I did for this chapter back in July. It's an improved version of that. I then did this webinar for SCORE National, and here we are today. Because it's so many demos, it's been pre-recorded. That way the demos go right the first time and there's no issues there. So there will be both live Q&A during the webinar in the Q&A box of Zoom, and there will also be live audio Q&A at the end of the webinar. One small correction, the presentation part is actually 60 minutes, and we will be taking about 15 minutes at the end for that live Q&A. With that said, we will play it.
My name is Matthew Krieger. I've been a SCORE mentor for about 10 years. My background is both in computer science and in technology, both in education and about half my career. I moved from those technology roles to executive roles. Today I'm president of a manufacturing company in Connecticut, but it's still very important to me to be very deeply and heavily involved in the technology. And as a result, I do things like this, and I have some personal development projects that I work on. I'm also very heavily involved in nonprofit. I'm the chair of a foundation, and I'm on several other nonprofit and company advisory boards. Regarding today's presentation format, most of the presentation today is examples. All of these examples should be actionable by you. You should be able to go to a browser and get started right away. They all should be accessible with not a lot of tech experience and free or low-cost tools. The goal really is to get you to dive in and to try to realize some of the productivity benefits that AI tools can provide. Let's start with some basic definitions to set up the demos. Generative AI is AI that can be communicated with and also communicate with you in a human-like way. The generative part is that when you ask the AI a question, it can actually create new outputs based on that question. AI is non-deterministic. That is, the results are being created in real time. So if you ask the same question twice, you may actually get to different but similar answers. An AI model is a computer program that is trained on very large data sets to make decisions or to recognize patterns. And some of the AI tools today that we're looking at were trained on the entire internet, a massive data set of knowledge and of human language, and of images and audio and video. And a large language model, or LLM, is a type of AI model that specifically focuses on understanding natural language. You'll see today throughout this presentation, and also in, I think, many of the other AI content that you read about, that these terms are used interchangeably. Few more definitions. ChatGPT, Claude, Google Gemini, Perplexity AI, these are all chat interfaces that implement large language models and are generative AI tools. Again, these tools understand language, whether it's text or voice, they can understand images, and they can create all of that as well as part of their outputs. Think of a generative AI model like a black box. It's actually very difficult to know what goes on inside that black box. Even the people who develop them have challenges really seeing into the black box. There's lots of math, there's lots of computer science, there's lots of probabilities. It often looks like magic. So when you give an input to a generative AI model and then get an output, it is often unclear how that output was determined. Some of this AI does things that the developers didn't expect, and they call these emergent behaviors. The important thing to understand here is that part and parcel to how generative AI works is that these computer models, they don't necessarily store knowledge. What they store is lots of probabilities about what are likely to be the correct responses to a given question. Like many things, especially technologies, there are cycles. In the first cycle, which we're sort of still in, there's lots of very fun demos that are kind of gratuitous. They're exciting, but they're not that useful. We're kind of getting out of that phase with AI. We're really focused on phase 2, which is using the tools for real-world cases and increasing your productivity using the tools and technology. That's what today's workshop is based on. And then phase 3 and beyond is the real transformational impact. We saw this with the internet. We saw this with cloud. We saw this with mobile. It takes years to see the impact of these things. So we're in it right now with AI. One more comment about these demos. As I said, the remainder of the presentation today is going to be very rich in demos that you should be able to go do on your own. All of them, as I said, are actionable by you. Some of them may be practical to you, but all of them should really serve to help you see what's possible for your business. In all of these demos, I accessed various tools on the web. I accessed ChatGPT at chatgpt.com and on my phone. Also, I got Claude, which is another AI, at claude.ai and also via the Claude mobile app. And I did the same with a tool called Perplexity at Perplexity AI, both on the web and mobile. All of these tools are large language models. In every demo, I will be using text or speech or images to solve various problems or accomplish various things. In some cases, I use the paid version of the tool. In some cases, I use the free, but I think the majority of what I did today can be accomplished with free versions. We're going to hop into the demos now. So right now we're at chatgpt.com, ready to enter a prompt.
We're paused, folks. Matt?
Hi, hi everyone. We understand we have an audio issue. Give us one moment, please. Budley?
Yes, I've got all of my audio settings, both on system and in Zoom, as loud as it goes.
Understood. So Budley, what I think you should do is stop the share, go back to the share box, and then before you say okay, there should be a box about system audio about when sharing. I think that'll do it.
On it. Okay. In the
I may have
share,
the wrong. Okay.
meeting player. Sound. Okay, we'll try that. Optimize. Trying again.
Writing a prompt is how you tell generative AI tools what you want. So anytime I type text into ChatGPT or the other AI tools tonight, or anytime I speak to them in my native language of English, we're writing a prompt. So about the first demo. So I see that SCORE clients are in a continuous state of learning all the time. Many are trying to understand QuickBooks or maybe understand Excel or Google Sheets. And they say, well, how do I learn these tools if I don't have any data? Well, the first example is going to address that. We're going to use ChatGPT to generate data. Some of today's demos are going to be using sample data that is in an Excel spreadsheet. And there's no better way that I've found to generate sample data than using some of the generative AI tools. So here we have ChatGPT 4.0, and I'm going to tell it a bit about what I need from it. So I'm going to say, my company sells hand tools. Generate me a list of fake customer data. I want 100 records. There should be a customer ID, first name, last name, last name, email address, zip code, total purchase amount, birthday, day and month, and product categories purchased. The customer ID should, let's say, start at 1 and go up from there. I want all data fake and random. Zip codes should be valid US zip codes, and email addresses should be valid, should be properly formatted random emails. The birthday column format should be month, day. Let's see what else. For the categories purchased, include one or more at random of the following categories: saws, measuring tools, drills, storage, and other. Put the categories, show the categories separated by commas. Give it to me in a table. And we'll let it churn away. You can see how the sausage is made here if you decide to click that arrow. Not really relevant. You can turn it off and just wait, but sometimes it's entertaining to see it think. So let's see what it gives. So here we go. So we got some fake customer data. We got the IDs like we want. First name, last name. Looks like we have properly formatted email addresses. I don't know if these zip codes are valid, but let's assume they are for a minute. We got birthdays, random, and we have categories exactly as I wanted. Now let's do one more thing. I'm going to say, do it again, but add a column with the last purchase date. Format it as month, day, and 4-digit year. Let's see what it does. It should give it to me again. Depending on how much data you ask for, you may have to wait. That's part of the name of the game here. Things are getting faster and faster, but it's certainly easier than doing it yourself. So let's give this a minute and let's see what happens. Here we go. And we got data. Look, everything looks good, except you'll notice we have a comma in there. That's actually not what we wanted, but it's helpful because we're going to show later how to fix that. Now, finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, save this for me as an Excel spreadsheet. There we go. And now I can download and view the spreadsheet. Let's open it up and see how it did. Okay, it looks pretty good. I think it's pretty much what we were looking for. Now you can continue to work on the data with Excel, or we can go back to ChatGPT or some of the other tools and manipulate further. But if you want sample data to be generated, maybe you're doing what if scenarios for financial planning or budgeting. Maybe you're trying to learn how to use QuickBooks and you'd like to get some data into the system, whether you're looking to learn Excel and you want some good data to play with. This is a good way to generate that data. In this example, we're going to use ChatGPT again to fix and format some data. Now, in business, we've all run into this situation where we have data that is poorly or improperly formatted. We have a full name column, which has mixed lowercase and uppercase. In some cases, we have the full name spelled out. In other cases, we have the last name, comma, and then first name. There's no rhyme or reason to it. In column B, we have the phone number. The phone number, as you can see, is several different formats. There's periods and dashes sometimes, there's parentheses other times, there's spaces sometimes, and then other times there's none. So it's these situations that ChatGPT is a wonderful tool because it can solve the problem for us. Because the alternative would be to write Excel formulas to do the same thing, which, if you don't know how to do that, can take some time to learn. So first, I'm going to drag that spreadsheet into ChatGPT, and I'm going to give it a prompt. I'm going to say, fix the full name column to extract the first and last names, regardless of the order they currently show in. Make a new first name column for the extracted first name and make a new last name column for the extracted last name. Figure out what is the first and last name, correct for proper upper and lower case. Also, format the phone numbers into a new column according to the following format. Let's see what happens. First thing you'll see, it pulls in the existing data, and now ChatGPT is going to work. I can click this, and you get to see a little bit of what happens behind the scenes. Not necessary to look at, but you do get a sense of the code that it's writing itself in order to solve that problem. So it says, okay, I figured it out, extracted the columns, corrected for proper capitalization, phone numbers reformatted, review the data, let's see if other adjustments are made. So I'm going to say, save it as a CSV. I'm going to click that button for saving as a comma separated value. And let's open it up and take a look at it. I'll zoom in a bit here, and you can see that that's the original columns. And now we have a new first name and last name column, which at first glance looks okay. It's necessary to not blindly trust, but double check. And as we requested, the formatted phone number is now in the proper format. We've got number, dash, number, and so on. And we've standardized that number according to what we wanted. In the business world, there is structured and unstructured data. Structured data is data that you'd find in a spreadsheet or in a QuickBooks system. That is that there is a data definition, there's a row, there's a column, some data is text, some data is numbers, and the system understands the type of data that it is. Structured data can be thought of in Excel or Google Sheets when you want to sort on columns or sum up data. That's structured data. Unstructured data is data that lacks structure. Handwritten notes, logs that you keep, a journal, a Word document. All of these things are considered unstructured because it's just free-form data. There's no definition to that data. Well, that can present a problem because a lot of our data is unstructured, but we still want to ask questions of that data and get intelligence from it. I've been keeping a food log for about 5 months because I want to start working with a nutritionist. So the food log is pretty basic. I just have the date and then the time and what I've eaten. No particular format. It's kind of sloppy. And I'd like to give this, I could give it to my nutritionist, but it's 20 pages long. It takes a lot of reading. Let's see if Claude here can help. So I've uploaded the file into Claude. I'm going to say that is my food log. Tell me the major food groups I eat in descending order of consumption. Let's see how it does. Okay, not bad, not bad. Proteins, vegetables, very frequently avocado as avocado toast. Super, sounds good. What do I eat most? Okay, I like avocado toast for breakfast, chicken, eggs. What do I eat least? Red meat. That is a very good point. I rarely, if ever, eat red meat, and I don't have a lot of fried food, so it got that properly. How late do I typically eat dinner? Not bad. When is the last time I ate fish, and how many times per week do I typically eat it? One thick tuna steak. I'll count the fish instances. Okay, no fish, no fish. A little bit of salmon. I seem to eat fish about 1 to 2 times a week. I'd like to do more. So this is pretty helpful. In this example, we're going to use both ChatGPT and Claude to analyze some fictitious financial statements and give us some insights. So I've got financial statements, got a balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow for a sample business for 2 fiscal years. So let's give it the 2023 data. And I'm going to tell ChatGPT the role I want it to play. So you are a financial, you are an expert financial analyst. Take a look at the attached financial statements for this company and give me your insights. Be succinct. Give me recommendations on how to improve performance or any problems you are seeing. It'll happily ignore my spelling errors. And we get some results. So we see a summary of the key financial metrics between the statements. It says we're healthy. Let's look at areas for improvement. High salary, marketing and travel, accounts receivable. Okay, so now it makes recommendations. Now, let's do this next part here. Let's drag in 2022 data. Boom, boom, boom. That's 2022 data for the same company. Compare year-over-year performance and give me some insights. Excellent. At the end, I think it's going to give me some analysis about the performance differences it's seeing. Here we go. Company experienced modest revenue increase. We had a profit decline, meaning higher expenses or lower margins. Talks about expense management, pricing strategy, yada, yada, yada. So you can dig in with questions like that. And what I'm going to do in Claude is I'm going to upload the same 6 files. And now I'm going to say, build me an interactive dashboard comparing fiscal years 2022 to 2023. And it looks like it didn't take the data. So let's drag that in one more time. I can add 5 attachments to a chat. Okay, let's look just at the income statement and balance sheet, and we'll add them. And we'll get an interactive dashboard from it. Okay, so it's going to do some magic. And we've got a summary here, and we've got a infographic of revenue, expenses, net income. Here's where it gets interactive, comparing expenses, net income. I guess that's total revenue. Yep, expenses, net income, assets, liabilities for each year. And let's ask it one last question. Let's say, make me an interactive infographic specifically around the expense categories for 2023. And the result is a pretty decent looking graphic broken down by major expense buckets. For this demo, I've switched over to Claude at claude.ai. Claude is similar to ChatGPT by a company called Anthropic. At my company, we have boxes of electronics on the shelf. Here's a couple of photos that I just took. So we have 1 and we have 2, and it's basically a bunch of boxes of miscellaneous stuff. Now, I want to take an inventory here. I could run around, I could scan the UPC codes, I could write down what's on the shelf with a clipboard, I could go over with my smartphone and log everything. Let's see if the AI models can help us here. I'm going to drag those photos in. Give me an inventory of items in tabular format. The spelling really doesn't matter. It's sort of like Google, it'll figure it out. Include the manufacturer name, product name, and UPC code. Let's see how it does. That's not bad for a few moments of work. They are terminal blocks that got that right. Are the UPC codes right? I'm not exactly sure, but it's just an attempt. Maybe if we took a better photo, we get better results. Let's take the same prompt and we're going to go into ChatGPT. I'm going to drag these two photos in. And we'll move that thing out of the way. And I'm going to give it the same prompt. And let's see what it does. Interesting. So we get some different. Now, I don't know how valid this data is. Some of this I'm actually doing on the fly because the point here is to show you that you're not guaranteed to get trustworthy results. What you are going to do is, I think, be a bit more productive with these tools than without. So let me say, save this data for me in a CSV file. Not bad. It's a starting point. I'm in the ChatGPT mobile app here. I'm in the supermarket, and a few minutes ago, I took some photos of the shelves. In this example, we're going to get some help finding stuff on crowded supermarket shelves. So this is a photo here of some sauces. Find me the Heinz 57 with the green logo. Green logo, left side of the image, directly above Lee and Perrins. Well, it's not clear to me that it's right above the Lee and Perrins, but it was on the left, so it sort of got that right. Let's try a new chat, and this time we'll give it the drug aisle. Find me the low dose Bayer. Low dose Bayer image on the fourth shelf towards the right side, Bayer low dose, small yellow. And it looks like it got that one pretty good. We're going to have a human-like voice chat with ChatGPT using its audio feature. I'm going to tap on that microphone. What are the 5 phases of cell division?
The 5 phases of cell division, specifically in mitosis, are 1. Prophase. Chromosomes condense and become visible. The nuclear envelope breaks down and spindle fire.
Actually, just give me the names of the 5 phases.
Sure, the 5 phases are 1. Prophase, 2. Prometaphase, 3. Metaphase, 4. Anaphase, 5. Telophase.
What was the third one again?
The third phase is metaphase.
And what was the first one?
The first phase is prophase.
Tell me about that one.
In prophase, chromosomes condense and become.
So you'll see in this example that I was having a real human-like conversation. It understood context. It understood semantically what I meant. When I said the third one, it knew. When I said the first one, it knew. When I said, tell me more, I didn't have to say, tell me more about. It just knew what I was talking about. It becomes in my opinion, much nicer and more human way to be able to search, because unlike when you do standard internet search today, you have to repeat the question differently in full each time. Whereas conversations with ChatGPT and other AI tools allow you to pick up from where you left off, and all the context is the history of that conversation, which it doesn't forget. In this example, we're going to have ChatGPT look at an image of a desk phone I have at work and answer a question about how to use it. So I took a photo of the phone. How do I create speed dial entries on this phone? It says this is a Yealink T46S. Press the menu key, navigate to discover. Okay, so let's see if it got the phone right. So it is a Yealink T46S. So far, so good. Menu key, navigate to directory, local directory, and new contact. Let's try it out. Hit the menu key, directory, local directory, all contacts, add. It worked. In this next example, we're going to use a product called Perplexity, which is an AI search product. So AI, when added to search, gives you the ability to have human-like conversations with the search engine, like we've shown in ChatGPT and Claude, how we've had human-type interactions with text, except here it's applied to search. Normally, when you ask Google a question, if the results aren't right, you can't say to it, no, what I really meant was, you have to start all over with a new query, and you have to keep going until you get that query right. So the benefits of natural language are brought to search. In addition, AI-powered search engines like Perplexity can synthesize results for you and give you the best of what it's put together, what it's curated for you. Google is starting to do this now with search results. So I'm in the market for an electric weed whacker. Most important to me are reliability, battery life, and performance, also cost. I want Perplexity to give me 5 recommendations ranked by cost in descending order, and I want it in a table with the manufacturer, the product name, a description, and the cost. And let's see how it does it. So it's searching the web in the background. Like everything else, this may take a second, it may take a few minutes. You just don't know until you do it, because this thing is really a living experiment. So it's filtering the results. It's doing some things in the background. You can see it's generating its own software code to do that. Now we're at the point where it's making a decision on what to recommend me. And here we go. So it has 5 manufacturers. It gives me the sources of where it got that information, product names, descriptions, and cost. Let's do this. Notice it says ask a follow-up question. This gets to my point before, is we can continue to have a conversation like we would with a human being. We don't have to start over. I'm going to say for each product recommendation, give me a link to purchase it. So it's going to go back and it's going to add that information to the table. And hopefully we get something a little bit more usable. So it did it again, but it's not putting it in table form, at least not yet. So do it again, but give it to me in a table. And it shouldn't have to start all over because it already has the information. Okay, we got different sources this time. Maybe more sources, maybe better sources, not sure. Look at that. I apologize for the confusion. So it recognizes that it should have done a table and didn't. So that's a little bit disappointing here, that it only was able to give me one link. Why is that? So I'm going to say, do it again, table format, but make sure to always find and include links. Okay, so it looks at reviews again. There we go. And now we have a set of recommendations that are actionable. Let's carry the conversation a little bit further. It's giving me some tools that are 60 volt, some that are 40 volt. I'm going to say limit the results to 20 volt tools as I want to keep the cost down. Keep everything else the same. Okay. Looks like it did it. 20 volt, 20 volt, 20 volt, 20 volt, 20 volt. It's ranked in decreasing order of cost, and I have links. In this example, we're going to have ChatGPT create a basic web page template for us on something that we just sketched on paper. So I drew on paper this very basic web page to allow people to schedule hair appointments at my hair salon. So I took a photo of that, and let's drag it in. And after moving this stuff, I'm going to say to ChatGPT, build me the HTML for a web page that looks like the one in this picture. Let's see how good a job it does just with that. In this case, we're going to see what's going on behind the scenes. It's going to give me some HTML here. Looks good so far. Gives me a button. I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to say save that result to an HTML file for me. Let's try it out. Preferred date, time, email address, name, and a submit button. Not bad. Not bad at all. If we carry that example one step further, put some more intelligence into it, we're going to say, do it again, but this time, give me a date picker that allows me to choose a date from the calendar. Do the same for a time picker. When I click the submit button, put up a message that says, thank you. Save the result to an HTML file for me. Okay, it's off to the races. And let's take a peek. Look at that. So now we have a date picker and we have a time picker, and I'll put in my email address and click submit, and it should say thank you. And it does. This example is going to focus on a personal investment report, which is a sample document that I downloaded from the internet. Apparently, this individual has a stock and bond portfolio managed by some investment advisor, and they've created a report for the individual. So I'm going to bring this document into Claude, and before I ask new questions of the document, I'm going to ask it some basic questions of things that we already know the answer to, just to make sure that Claude gets it right. So I dragged in the document, and I'm going to say, read that personal investment report. Okay, so it gives me an overall summary. It says the total portfolio was 545,000. It got that right, 82% to 18. That sounds good. Am I heavy in my holdings of any particular sector? And hopefully it tells me that I'm overweight in healthcare. Yes, I'm overweight in healthcare. Sounds good. Let's ask it one or two more questions. Portfolio diversification. So let's say, give me a table with the allocation of my portfolio between cash, US stocks, and bonds. Put everything else into an other category. Bonds, 18%. Perfect. That looks pretty consistent with here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to ask it some questions where the answers may not be explicitly mentioned. Tell me my tech stock holdings. Give me a table with the name of the company, the number of shares I own, and the total current market value. Do it in decreasing order of value. Okay, so it looks like I own Microsoft, followed by Apple and Alphabet and Meta. So far, so good. You'll notice that it knew that these were technology stocks without the document necessarily saying so. Now, let's say that I want to total my holdings in chip companies. What is the total current market value of the chip companies? NVIDIA, Broadcom, and Qualcomm. I forgot to include Texas Semi and On Semi, but we get the point. So it shows me the total for each of them. Let's change gears. How might I better diversify my fixed income portfolio? Extend duration in terms of maturity, spread out the maturities, increase active management, diversify bond types. Keep in mind, some of these answers may or may not actually be in the document, and in some cases, the AI is doing some calculations to come up with those answers. Let's see if it can do this. What are some major current technology stocks that I do not own and I may want to consider owning? So this is a good answer. It says I don't own Amazon or Adobe or Salesforce or Intel or Oracle. So that information certainly wasn't in the report. And I'm going to ask it one final question. How have I performed relative to the S&P 500? Doesn't have enough information. So it tells me how to do it, but it doesn't have enough information, which is interesting. It should be able to go and get that, but not every query is successful. Okay, let's try one more. I am very risk averse. I value maintaining my assets over growing them. Is this portfolio appropriate for that? And it should say no. It does not appear to be well aligned with a risk-averse strategy. So the answer is right there. So I'd say it did an okay job here. We're going to see another example here of where AI search can really excel. So everybody's been tire shopping, and it's a super pain because it's very difficult to compare and contrast one tire to another. So because AI search has, by definition, the ability to go out on the web, look at web pages, and get information from them, I'm going to take a look at using that functionality. So I'm going to say I drive a 2019 Tesla Model 3. I'm a speed demon, and I like to drive in the rain. So performance and safety are very important to me. I've narrowed down my choices to the following 3 tires, and I'd like you to compare them for me based on the priorities, which I spelled wrong, that I mentioned earlier. And we'll put those in and let's see what it does. Based on the performance in rainy conditions, those are the 3 options. Okay, so it gives me some good verbiage here, makes a recommendation. Based on my priority, safety, and wet conditions, either of those two would be the best. So I'm going to say, do it again. Put the results in a table format. Be succinct. SUCCINCT. Highlight the differences only. Sumitomo were closely matched, better aligned. Goodyear is more oriented towards comfort and mobility. So once again, the point here, which I really want to emphasize, is that this AI search was able to take disparate information from the web, follow the links, bring it back, summarize it, synthesize it, and then make a recommendation to me. Let's take a photo here. We'll use that. How heavy is this bucket? Now, in order to figure this out, it needs to know the size of the bucket, which it ought to be able to figure out, and how much water's in the bucket. So it says a standard Home Depot bucket is 5 gallons. That's about right. From the image, the bucket looks about 3/4 full. It's actually a bit more than that, but it knew it was water. It knew it was almost full, and it knew it was a 5-gallon bucket. So it says the bucket weighs about 35 pounds, which is give or take what it weighs. At my company, we make big ovens for industrial customers. And we make lots of different kinds of ovens. We make microwave ovens and hot air ovens and all kinds of products that industrial manufacturers can use to make their stuff. And like many companies, we make data sheets and we give them to the customers as part of the sales process. So here's a technical data sheet. The details don't matter, but the important part is it has the name of the product and the model number, and it has different specifications like how long the oven is and how high the temperature can go. And we have other product specification sheets for different ovens as follows. And you can see here in this directory, I have approximately, 10, 15 product data sheets for these technical products. And what I want to do in this demo is create an AI knowledge base chatbot that our customers can use to ask questions about our products. So I'm going to use a function, or a feature, I should say, of Claude called projects. And the project that I'm going to create is going to be called Company Data Sheet Knowledge Base. And I will provide you with my equipment spec sheets, and customers will ask questions about the equipment and specifications. I want you to give succinct answers. We'll create that project. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in these files. So let's take all this knowledge base material and we're going to drag it in to the project. We'll give that a minute to upload. And there we go. Those are uploaded. And now I can pretend I'm a customer and I'm going to ask a question about the product. I'm going to say, what is the highest power microwave oven available? And what it's going to do is it's going to look at all the documents and synthesize the information. So it shows the product, the BPH 100, it says that it is the highest power available. And that is indeed correct. So that was good. I'm going to say, what is the highest temperature of the CV136 oven? Looks at those documents, and indeed it's correct, 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Which of the ovens allow more than 24 kilowatts of microwave power? Again, the technical details don't matter here. What's important is that the Claude project is looking through all the documents and synthesizing information to give answers. That is correct. So both of those ovens can go higher than 24 kilowatts. What is the shortest oven made? And that is absolutely correct as well. Give me a table with all of the product model numbers, descriptions, and lengths in DSCE ending order of length. And again, it's looking at all the documents, synthesizing that information. And from a customer perspective, I don't have to scan each document to get the information. I get it automatically from the system here. In this example, we're going to have ChatGPT explain a diagram to us. In this case, on the left, we have a diagram from an air conditioning and heating site of an air conditioning process. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT to explain that diagram to me. Diagram to me. So you'll notice that the content that ChatGPT is outputting is information that's not directly in the diagram. So where is it getting this information? Well, this is the generative part of generative AI. What's generative here is that models like ChatGPT or Anthropic or Google Gemini were trained on vast data sets. And that means that they have knowledge, or at least statistical probabilistic knowledge, about how to answer the question and about what word comes after what word in order to make a sequence of sentences in order to give me an answer. And it looks like it did pretty well. So it generated this response. If I were to ask this question again, I would probably get a slightly different answer. I'm going to say, though, make it even more simple and be succinct. So the components, the overall cycle, I think it did a pretty good job. Let's do the opposite of the last example. On the left now, I have a US government website that has the process by which a bill becomes a law. Let's have Claude make a diagram of this. Draw me a diagram of the following concept. And I'll paste it in. Nice. So it has the steps and it produced them visually in a flow chart. And now I can take this file and save it and paste it into anywhere I need. Okay, let's do it again with a couple of changes. Do it again, but this time use colors and include the step number in the box along with the description. Okay, it looks like it did it. So if I look at the original steps, 1, 2, it did them colored. Colors could be better, but we could always ask for those changes. Great. In this example, we're going to create an expense report in Excel using photos of receipts. So we have a receipt here from some restaurant. Here's another one from a Chick-fil-A and some airport food place. We've got a hotel receipt. We've got airfare. And looks like we've got maybe another hotel receipt. So I'm going to take these images and I'm going to drag them in to ChatGPT. And I'm going to say, read, those are receipts from a recent business trip. Create an Excel spreadsheet. Expense report. Categorize expenses by travel, hotel, meals, and other. We're starting to get some output here. And before I open the spreadsheet, it's always good to ask the model to confirm that it has included everything. Make sure you've got everything included and properly categorized. It'll happily ignore my spelling errors. Good. So we see a breakdown. Maybe too much of a breakdown for the hotel. Let's see how it did. So dates, description. Looks like it got the category right and the amounts, all from photos. And that wraps up the demos.
Okay.
Matt?
Yeah. So you made it through. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask?
Matt, you may want to do a quick review on the different AI models that you talked about, where in the chat you mentioned that Perplexity is good at research, whereas Claude may be better at explaining things.
Well, yeah. The ChatGPT is, of course, the big name. It's a general purpose tool. OpenAI tends the company that that puts out ChatGPT tends to be the leader in the field, and certainly that's true on the marketing side of things. ChatGPT, as I said, it's a general purpose tool with the ability to consume and create text, images, graphics, Claude by Anthropic is similar. Some people think it has slightly better document management capabilities. That is the ability to consume documents and act as a knowledge base. Claude has great ability to create interactive graphics um, uh, and visualizations, especially from written text, and also go the other way around. Anthropic markets itself as being very focused on transparency of their models and focused on safety. There's Google Gemini, of course, another general purpose model. Google has come a long way in a very short amount of time. Gemini is also a general purpose model. Somebody in the chat asked, what's better, depending on your use case? It's very hard to say nowadays. Everybody's always leapfrogging each other. You really have to try them all. If you're really an enthusiast, you can plop down $20 a month to each of them. If not, you can get away with free versions and still get most of the functionality. There is such rapid improvement across the board that it's kind of dangerous just to pick a tool and go with it. You really have to play with multiple tools. Perplexity, as we commented before, and as Budley said, Perplexity is more of a search tool. Many people feel that Perplexity is a way to do a better job of search than Google does. I like Perplexity because of its ability to do research and to cite sources. Grok is an interesting one too. Grok is a little bit more fast and furious than some of the others. I think that it's a bit more edgy, has a few less safeguards. Almost all of the models today have voice mode, which is where you can have an interactive human conversation with the model as well. Someone wrote in the, Larry wrote in the chat, do I use Poe, which aggregates all of them? So there's a couple of services. There's Poe, there's you.com, YOU, that do aggregations of the services. I haven't personally used them. I would say if you are a lighter user, in terms of how much you use the tools, you might check out those services. I think they have higher limits on each of the individual tools, but it is kind of the poo-poo platter of AI tools and can save you money on a monthly subscription.
Matt, if you scroll down through the chat, there were a couple of new questions after 1:03 p.m. you may want to chime in on, please.
Sure. Can you protect IP? So the best advice is if you have confidential or sensitive information, not to upload it to the tools at all. It's just generally a best practice. There are settings in ChatGPT, and I think Claude, and I believe Gemini as well, that allow you to tell the model to not use your data as training data. So I would recommend that. If you're very interested in protecting your IP, if you can figure out how to anonymize your data and upload it, that could be helpful. There's also local models that you can download onto your own computer. So if you Google for a tool called LM Studio or OLlama, so O and then Llama, they allow you to download smaller models, which generally will be substantially less capable than the big ones, but they will run locally and the data will never leave your computer. What AI can create text to speech with an animated and enthusiastic voice? All of the most of the tools today will respond to prompts indicating that they should use a certain tone, a certain pitch, a certain speed. And if you type to ChatGPT or Gemini, for example, and say, I want you to repeat such and such, using a certain affect or tone, they will generally do that. They also provide lots of tools for programmers to automate that kind of thing as well. Brian asked, are there any special meta questions? For example, what question am I not asking? Would a photo? Yes. So it's a good practice. It's a best practice when prompting an AI model to have an interactive conversation with the model, to help you get it to a better result. So when I ask a question to a model, I like to have the same kind of conversation that I would have with a human, because I'm assuming the model is an expert at things that I may not be. So I say, hey, I've given you all this context, and here's what I'm trying to achieve. What are some other things that you should know in order to help get me the best possible result? Feel free to ask me those questions, and the model will do as you wish. I like to prompt the model for how I can do better, what I may have given that's inaccurate or inconsistent. You may have seen there have been some stories in the news lately where ChatGPT, for example, has been overly agreeable to what you type. And I like to say to the models, don't assume everything I'm telling you is correct. Please challenge my assumptions. Let me know if I've expressed any inconsistencies. And again, ask me any questions to help you determine that I can get the best result. Brian asked also, if I wanted to have AI create illustrations for a new kids book, what would I recommend? So Mid-Journey, which you can, I think, get a limited tier free, and then other tiers at 10 and 20 bucks a month. It's a pretty amazing image generator. ChatGPT is a pretty amazing image generator as well. Grok has great image generation capabilities. They all kind of have their styles, so you should be very specific when you want images generated, telling the AI really the style and the feeling and the colors that you want to portray. But I think you gotta try them all. But Midjourney certainly is a great choice. John Schulman says, if you ask the exact same question to the same model twice, will you get the exact same answer? Do all models have access to the current internet feed? Okay. If you ask the same question twice, you will likely get the same or similar answers. However, it is possible to get different answers. And that's because based on current conditions, the models are always operating on a probabilistic basis. It is unlikely in most cases that you will get very different answers, but you might not get the exact same answer. With respect to having internet access, really all of the models now, while they are trained still up to a given point in time, I think most, if not all, have the ability to search the web. I know that when you're in ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity, there's an internet search box that you can check. I tend not to check it. It seems to figure out if it doesn't have current information that it needs to go to the web and do that by itself. There's a question, how much memory space will Olama take since it is local and never leaves my computer? These programs, these models locally, they take a lot of memory. If you have a run-of-the-mill computer, it's likely you won't be happy with the result. That's why when you go buy a Mac today, or when you go buy a PC, the manufacturers are marketing, AI PCs and models. Make sure you get enough memory. That's really the big deal. If you're interested in doing local AI work, you're going to want to have at least 16 or 24 gigabytes or higher. Susan asked if I teach a course on effective prompt writing. I don't, but I do know that if you look at the SCORE chapter website and national website and also YouTube, there is so much good content on great prompt writing. I'm certainly not the best.
That last question on this one, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, Brian asked, I've had mixed results on using the research button on chat. I've never used ChatGPT's research feature at all, but the important thing with any of these research features is ask good. It all comes down again to the prompt. If you ask a highly involved research question in the form of one short sentence, you're not likely to get information. The better context and focus of what you're looking for that you can communicate to ChatGPT, the better.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. That was fabulous. There have been a number of questions about whether this will be available on our website, and the answer is yes. You will be able to find it in our library at fairfieldcounty.score.org. You can also find Matt's previous presentation on AI in our library at fairfieldcounty.score.org. Other than that, thank you for attending. There have been rave reviews, Matt, as I'm sure you can see. And again, thank you all, and hope to see you again very soon.